Angie Dickinson is an American film and television actress, and a recipient of a Golden Globe Award. She has collaborated with directors such as Howard Hawks, Samuel Fuller, John Boorman, Sidney Pollack, and Gus Van Sant, sharing the screen with stars like John Wayne, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Marlon Brando, and Harrison Ford. However, she is primarily remembered for her portrayal of Sergeant Leann Pepper Anderson in the influential television series Policewoman, the first of its kind starring a woman and serving as a precursor to Charlie's Angels. Angie Dickinson, born Angeline Brown, is the second of three daughters. She was born in Kulm, North Dakota, to Frederica and Leo H. Brown, who was an editor and director of a local newspaper. In 1942, her family relocated to Burbank, California. She graduated from Bellarmine Jefferson High School in 1947 at the age of 15. She showed a talent for writing and had already won the 6th annual Bill of Rights essay contest the previous year. She attended Glendale Community College and graduated in 1954 with a degree in business administration. Initially aspiring to be a writer with the support of her father, during her student years from 1950 to 1952, she worked as a secretary at Lockheed Air Terminal in Burbank, now known as Bob Hope Airport, and at a paper factory. In 1953, Angie Dickinson was the runner-up in a beauty pageant. Shortly after her marriage to Gene Dickinson, she decided to adopt Angie Dickinson as her stage name. She was hired by NBC to appear in various television programs, including the Colgate Comedy Hour. It was during this time that she met Frank Sinatra, who would become a lifelong friend. Years later, Dickinson would portray Sinatra's wife in the film Ocean's 11. On New Year's Day in 1954, Dickinson made her acting debut in an episode of the series Death Valley Days. This led to roles in productions such as Buffalo Bill Jr., 8 episodes of Matinee Theater, General Electric Theater, The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp, Broken Arrow, Gunsmoke, Cheyenne, Meet McGraw, The Restless Gun, Perry Mason, Mike Hammer, Wagon Train, Men into Space, and a memorable turn as a murder accomplice in a 1964 episode of the classic series The Fugitive, alongside David Janssen and guest star Robert Duvall. In 1965, she portrayed Carol Treadman in Dr. Kildare. Though Dickinson had a moderately successful film career for nearly 2 decades, working with top directors and actors of the 1950s and 60s, she wasn't initially recognized as a talented actress. Her stardom came later. Her film career began with minor roles in Lucky Me, a cameo in 1954, alongside Doris Day, The Return of Jack Slade, 1955, Man with the Gun, 1955, and Hidden Guns, 1956. She had her first leading role in Gun the Man Down, 1956, with James Arness, and in Sam Fuller's film China Gate, 1957, which depicted early conflicts in Vietnam. Rejecting the platinum blonde style of Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield because she felt it would limit her job opportunities, Dickinson only allowed her brown hair color to be changed to dark blonde. Early in her career, she mainly appeared in westerns, such as Shootout at Medicine Bend, 1957, co-starring with James Garner. One of her lesser-known and more surprising roles was dubbing the voice of Sarah Montiel in the film Yuma, Run of the Arrow, likely due to Sarah's limitations with English. It was another western that propelled her to Hollywood recognition, Howard Hawks' film Rio Bravo, 1958, where she portrayed a compulsive gambler named Feathers who is drawn to the local sheriff, played by her childhood idol, John Wayne. The film also starred Dean Martin, Ricky Nelson, and Walter Brennan. When Hawks sold her personal contract to a larger studio without informing her, she felt considerably upset as her hopes of being chosen by the director over Lauren Bacall for his films diminished. In the early 1960s, Angie Dickinson starred in numerous films, establishing herself as one of the prominent actresses of the decade. She appeared in The Bramble Bush alongside Richard Burton in Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra. She also worked on the political documentary A Fever in the Blood, 1961, a melodrama set in the Belgian Congo called The Sins of Rachel Cade, 1962, where she portrayed a volunteer nurse tempted by lust. Rome Adventure, also known as Lovers Must Learn, in 1962, and Jean Negulesco's Jessica, 1962, with Maurice Chevalier, playing a young woman who envies the married women in her town. Additionally, she shared the screen with her friend Gregory Peck in the dramedy Captain Newman, M.D. In The Killers, a film originally intended for television but sent to cinemas due to its violent content, Angie, showcasing her skills as a femme fatale, is struck by her boyfriend, portrayed by future U.S. President Ronald Reagan in his final acting role. Dickinson co-starred in the comedy The Art of Love, 1965, where she plays the woman of James Garner and Dick Van Dyke's dreams. She had moderate success in films throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, including Arthur Penn and Sam Spiegel's production The Chase, 1966, where she worked alongside stars like Marlon Brando, Jane Fonda, Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Miriam Hopkins, and others. Dickinson's standout film of this decade was John Boorman's classic Point Blank, 1967, with Lee Marvin as a betrayed and convicted thief escaping from Alcatraz, the first film shot in the famous prison, seeking revenge and reclaiming what he believes is rightfully his. Following the style of the time, the film didn't garner much audience or critical appreciation until many years later. In 1969, she starred in another Western, Young Billy Young with Robert Mitchum and Jack Kelly, and Sam Whiskey, where she shared her first on-screen kiss with the young Burt Reynolds. In 1971, she portrayed a lascivious schoolteacher in the comedy Pretty Maids All in a Row with Rock Hudson, and a deranged doctor in the science fiction film The Resurrection of Zachary Wheeler. One of her most remembered roles is as widow Wilma McClatchy in Big Bad Mama, 1974, with William Shatner and Tom Skerritt. Dickinson returned to the small screen in March 1974 to play a character in an episode of the anthology series Police Story. Her guest appearance was so popular that NBC decided to create a weekly detective series called Policewoman, where she would portray the first successful female police officer on television. Beverly Garland and Anne Francis had previously played similar roles, but their shows had been short-lived. Dickinson played Sergeant Leann Pepper Anderson, a classy blonde cop, member of the Los Angeles Police Department's Criminal Conspiracy Unit. As a tough yet charming woman, Pepper adopts various disguises to catch criminals and bring them to justice. The role solidified Dickinson's fame as a sex symbol over 40 years old, making her a popular icon of the 1970s. Policewoman aired in over 70 countries, becoming the most successful program in many of them. It essentially served as NBC's female response to other male-led detective series of the 1970s such as Hawaii Five-0, Kojak, The Streets of San Francisco, Macmillan and Wife, The Rockford Files, and Beretta, which aired on 3 different channels. After appearing in television miniseries like Pearl, 1978, Dickinson returned to the big screen in Brian De Palma's thriller Dressed to Kill, 1980, for which she won a Saturn Award for Best Actress. Beloved by some and reviled by others, largely for its violence and vulgar language, the film showcases Dickinson for 35 minutes until her character is murdered in an elevator. Critics praised her performance, and the movie is now seen as a pioneering work in the thriller genre, with Dickinson silent stalking through the labyrinth of the New York City Museum as one of the film's standout moments. Despite the career successes of Policewoman in the 1970s and Dressed to Kill in 1980, respect for Dickinson as an actress had begun to wane. In the 1960s and early 1970s, no one questioned her talent. She had a lesser role in Death Hunt with Charles Bronson in 1981, as well as in Charlie Chan and The Curse of the Dragon Queen. Earlier that year, she had the option to play Crystal Carrington in the television series Dynasty, but turned down the role, which was eventually played by Linda Evans. Given the success of the series, this was one of her biggest professional mistakes. After leaving her own comedy, produced by Johnny Carson, The Angie Dickinson Show in 1980, after only 2 episodes, because she didn't feel it was funny enough, she began working on Cassie Company, an unsuccessful attempt to return to television. She later starred in television movies such as One Shoe Makes It Murder, 1982, Jealousy, 1984, A Touch of Scandal, 1984, Hollywood Wives, 1985, and Still Watch, 1987. Dickinson also hosted Saturday Night Live on December 12, 1987. In film, she reprised her role as Wilma in Big Bad Mama 2, 1987, and worked on the TV movie Kojak. Fatal Flaw, where she reunited with Telly Savalas. Additionally, she starred alongside Willie Nelson in the 1988 Western Once Upon a Texas Train. In 1982, at the age of 50 and still without having undergone surgery, a list of Hollywood designers and makeup artists ranked her first on their list of best actress figures in Hollywood. In 1993, Dickinson appeared in the futuristic television miniseries Wild Palms, produced by Oliver Stone, where she played the sadistic and militaristic sister of political figure Tony Kreutzer. That same year, she starred in Gus Van Sant's bizarre film Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, as the owner of a spa in Montana. Uma Thurman and a star-studded cast couldn't save the plot, as the film has been named one of the worst of the 90s. In 1995, she played Burt Reynolds' wife in the thriller The Maddening, appeared in the Sabrina remake with Harrison Ford, and played Rick Aiello and Robert Zucchini's mother in the comedy National Lampoon's The Don's Analyst. In 1997, she seduced elderly Artie, Rip Torn, in an episode of HBO's The Larry Sanders Show, titled Artie and Angie and Hank and Hercules. During the first decade of the new millennium, Dickinson played a homeless alcoholic, mother of Helen Hunt, in Pay It Forward, 2000, with Kevin Spacey, Gwyneth Paltrow's grandmother in Duets, 2000, and Arliss Howard's mother in the film Big Bad Love, 2001, with Deborah Winger. Having appeared in the original Ocean's 11, 1960, with her friends Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, 4 decades later she made a brief cameo in the 2001 version with George Clooney. Dickinson is often mentioned as an honorary member of the Rat Pack. An avid poker player, Dickinson participated in the second season of Celebrity Poker Showdown, which aired on the U.S. channel Bravo during the summer of 2004. After announcing her name, host Dave Foley said, "Sometimes when we say celebrity, that's what we mean." Dickinson has received the Rough Rider Award, bestowed by the state of North Dakota.